Harwood. So I've done a little bit of digging around and I've discovered
Ricky Grove. Fog comes in on little cat feet.
Phil Rice. This is the best film that I've seen all year and maybe ever.
Damien Valentine. Use the Machinima, Luke.
Hey everybody, this is And Now for Something Completely Machinima. My name is Ricky Grove. We're looking at Tracy Harwood and Damien Valentine joining us. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Machinima news and technology news that's related to Machinima. I'm happy to be here to discuss it with you. Tracy, what do you have for us?
Oh, wow. Well, I've got a bunch of stuff to talk about.
Cool.
I've got some new tools. I want to just sort of touch on the Disney things that we've been talking about.
Awesome.
Some AI stuff and a copyright item again.
Excellent.
So shall I carry straight on? Do you want me to carry straight on?
Please, go right into it.
Cool. All right. Well, I saw a bunch of really interesting tool releases, and I think Damien's going to talk about one of these as well, that I thought might be interesting to Machinima creators. Firstly, I picked up that iClone has released a clumsy moves pack. Well, I look forward to seeing more comedy in new films using this kind of tool set in due course.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a smart thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to see what Phil makes of it, actually. I love that kind of sort of humor, really.
Yeah.
But
maybe I should use it to make a Heir to the Empire blooper reel.
Oh, what a great idea. What a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, that to me was that looked amazing. So I'll share the link to that. It's $70. And I guess the more you get into these movement packs, the more it all starts to add up. But I thought that one
it does pile up, but it's high quality. That's one thing. I spent a lot of time talking to the people that run the company, and they're very much invested in quality. They don't release stuff that's junk. So when you buy something, it's really going to work.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's one. And then I saw, so you remember a few weeks back, we talked about some big fight scenes where we were commenting on the quality of the crowd animation. Well, I've seen a couple of crowd simulation tool sets, and I think these are quite interesting, actually. I think Damien, you're going to talk about one of these. So why don't you go ahead and talk about the iClone one, then I'll tell you about the other one.
Okay. So it seems to be a tradition that the day after we record, Reallusion announce some big update for iClone. And so this is what happened. I'm kind of curious what's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to get a new feature announcement.
Right.
So anyway, iClone's had for a while this crowd simulation technology built into it, and it's been pretty good. But they've released a massive update to it, which completely overhauls the crowd simulation. So you can, instead of just having characters that will move around in certain areas, this gives you a lot more control about what are they actually doing in the areas you've done. So
right.
I've not had a chance to try it out yet, but I'm excited because if you want to do a big battle, maybe you can have some battle animations that have loads of characters just fighting you without having to animate each one. That'd be really good.
Sure.
There's also the way that you can choose which characters are generated for your crowds as well. You've got a lot more control over that. So obviously, if you're making a fantasy or historic film, you don't want people walking around in jeans and t-shirts because that would look very wrong. So this crowd tool gives you those kind of options, and it looks very impressive. And I'm kind of looking forward to using this myself on some of the crowd scenes, because it's going to make it a lot easier to have lots of characters. And it's also designed so that if you've got lots of characters on the screen, you think that's going to really slow down your system. They've done something to help make that a little bit easier, and I don't fully understand how that works. But it's necessary because we're using our home computers
Right.
for this stuff. And so if you want to make a film with lots of characters walking around the background, but and it slows to a crawl and you can't actually complete anything, that's not really helpful. So whatever they've
Right.
done, it's going to be great. Yeah, I really need to give it a try so I can talk about it a little bit more in depth than I
Report
have.
back to us once you have a little bit more sense of what it actually does. So I'd
Yeah,
love to hear info on that.
yeah,
Hmm.
and it's a free update as well, so you don't have to.
Oh,
Excellent.
So you don't have to go and buy an extra plugin because a lot of the iClone stuff you do have to pay for the plugin, but this is free with iClone, which
Yeah.
that's always a good thing. So yeah, I'll have to come back maybe next month and give a proper review on what exactly it can do because there's a video that you can watch where they demonstrate how it all works, and it looks very impressive. And so if you're listening to this, go and check out that video because it'll give you an idea of what this can do.
yeah. Great. I'll put a link to that on our show notes. The other one that I saw, I don't know if you saw this one as well, a guy called Kenneth MacLean is working on something for Unreal Engine 5 called MegaHumans as a plugin. I don't think it's ready yet, but nonetheless, he's kind of put a little work in progress video out there where he's sort of using it to test and generate crowds as well. So I'm guessing it's something along a similar line to the iClone 8, as I understand it, tool set that you're talking about. Then the other thing that I saw this month, it'd be fair to say I don't think we've seen a lot of VR-based machinima. I know we sort of said in our original description of the show that we will sort of smatter it with a bit of VR, but we haven't seen a lot of VR machinima. I can actually only think of a couple by Jay Selina actually that we've reviewed. However, what I did see this month was a release of a free new mod by Praydog for Unreal Engine, which actually might change that. And this is a mod that will enable a vast number of games, as I understand it, over 11,000 games,
Hmm.
to be played in VR. And by association, I'm extending that to include making machinima within those game environments as well.
Of
So
course.
I'll share a link on that, and we'll look forward to seeing more VR machinima in due course. The mod itself is it's only available on GitHub, so I'll put a link to the GitHub link as well, so you can see if you can have a go with it with any of the little games that you've got that are based on Unreal. The other thing that
I,
I picked up on, go on, sorry.
can I do a quick little news item
Yeah.
so we can break it up a little bit? I just wanted to announce that in mid-January, not too long ago, Screen Actors Guild announced that they had come up with an agreement with a Replica Studios, which is an AI voice technology companies. It allows SAG AFTRA members, mostly voice performers, to work with Replica to create digital replicas of their voices.
Oh, wow.
Now, um, I'm they had talked about this SAG when they came up with their AI agreement with the studios. So it was interesting. This must have been in the works and they just delayed the announcement. Now, I'm really glad that they're jumping in on this because voice replicas can be something that can be abused pretty easily. But not all the SAG members are really happy about the deal. There's a lot of concern about whether it's a smart thing to do and also what sort of remuneration are they going to get and how is it going to be monitored? You know, to give you an example, a voice actor is hired by a company through Replica to use their voice. Now, rather than hire them to come in and do the full performance for a game, which might take 2 or 3 days, they hire them to do an hour or two of voicing in order to get a sense of what their voice is like, add it to their database, and their AI creates the performances for the game. So they're concerned about, well, then does the actor know if their voice is going to be used in another product, but it's been changed? the tone or the pitch or whatever has been changed to do something else. How is that going to be monitored? So there was a lot of confusion and a little bit of upset about that. However, I think overall it's a good approach because the actors are going to be remunerated. SAG AFTRA said they're going to be responsive if actors find out violations of the contract. So I think in general it's a good thing, but it's still a little bit touch and go on that. And I think that technology is ripe for abuse. Replica and actors' images or actors. I remember, God, it was way back in the early 90s when computers were just starting out. I had this thought, well, shit, if I was somebody like Marlon Brando or some famous actor at the time, why doesn't a company just call me into their place? I work for a week. They photograph every conceivable facial expression, all of the movements for anything, including action, romance, whatever, and my voice. And then they just use that to make performances from, and then they pay me for those performances. Heaven knows I was fantasizing, but here now we're looking at that very possibility today.
Yeah.
So it's a strange frontier.
It is, but you know what?
I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, it's the only way you're going to scale you as individuals, as actors. So you are really now being turned into proper commodities, much more so than you were as people doing the
that's great. That's a great, yeah.
Well, there's different ways of looking at that, I think, but it's the only way you're going to be scaled, or you as an asset are going to be scaled.
The Indiana Jones film that was released last summer, Dial of Destiny, it has a sort of 15 to 20-minute sequence set during the Second World War with the young Harrison Ford. I say young, how he was in the original Indiana Jones films, because Lucasfilm have got so much archive footage of him as Indiana Jones and as Han Solo in Star Wars that they were able to digitally create a younger face. So he was there performing the scenes and then changed his face digitally using all this archive footage. And they did something to his voice as well to make him sound younger. And it sort of sounds kind of similar to that. But obviously he gave permission to do that because he wants to be in this new Indiana Jones film. And it's the only way to do it because he can't be his younger self anymore. I've seen lots of de-aging technology used, and it usually looks very fake.
Yeah.
Unless they actually put makeup on the characters to make them younger, any sort of digital de-aging, it doesn't look right. But somehow, because they did use all this archive footage rather than just a straight image of his face, it worked. And there was a couple of places where you could tell that it wasn't quite right. But for the most part, you'd think this was something they filmed 30 years ago and just kept in storage to use now. But this is again, it's something that could be abused quite easily, like you were saying, Ricky, that when he's gone, they could, in theory, take all archive footage and do something else.
Technology has always been interesting, and innovation comes out, and then you've got two sides. You've got the side that's going to use it for creative and positive reasons, even for profit, and then you've got the other side of crooks and sleazebags who are just going to take that and turn it into something that they can steal more from people.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a telephone call from somebody that you know, and they say, "Hey, I'm in trouble. Send me money."
Yes.
And you send money, and you realize it was a AI voice fake.
Yeah.
All kinds of strange technology. So it's a two-sided equation. But I think, for the most part, this is an interesting way to do it. It'll be interesting to see how the future develops.
Because over here and over there, it's both election years. We're going to see a lot of AI fake stuff being used by both sides against the other.
For sure.
So I think that's going to help.
Yeah.
Sort of figure out what's going to be done about this from a legal perspective, because obviously
that's
going to be massively abused, and that's how you counter it is to.
It's funny how once a congressman is caught up in a sleazy deal and is screwed over, suddenly it becomes an important congressional issue.
Yeah.
Not when everyday people get screwed
Yeah.
over. It's only when it hits them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought I'd share that news with you because I thought it was interesting.
It's
Yeah,
fascinating. It is fascinating, and an unfolding picture, as you say. So, we've talked a lot about that on over previous episodes as well. And it's a complete moving feast, I think, on how AI is changing what we do and what the implications of are.
Really.
Yeah, massive, massive. I've actually got some AI issues as well, but I just wanted to sort of, well, in fact, I picked up on the back of the release of Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse IP by Disney
Right.
this last couple of weeks. You must have seen these teasers for this upcoming horror movie,
Oh, yeah.
which looks
The trailer's great.
it's amazing.
Trailer's great. What's the title of it again? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
There's two of them. I can't remember the names of them either, but two of them were revealed the day that it came out of copyright.
Yeah.
One is already made, and the other one's going to be made. But
That's
they both
January
had
1st.
Yes. Well, did you also see though the horror game? Not a film. This is a game, and I do know the name of this because I did have a better look at this one. This was called Infestation, and originally it was called, I think, Infestation 88 or 89 or something, and now they've changed it to Infestation Origins, and that's a game that's going to be released later this year, and it's also a horror game, which is fascinating. And
Yeah.
so, I was expecting, because this all unfolded from the 1st of January. I was thinking, right, let's keep a little bit of a rolling thing going on our information board, see what we see, if anybody creates anything kind of interesting over the coming weeks that we can kind of talk about. And I've not seen a single thing that's worth talking about, except just this morning, I saw this really interesting AI generated short that seems to confirm Mickey's transmogrification into a horror character. It's a total bit of fun, but it's really worth having a look at. So I'll put
Fantastic.
a link on the show notes so you can kind of have a look at that as well. So a little AI generated short. Brilliant.
By the way, the Princeton Law Review puts out every year in January something called the Public Domain Review, in which they list all of the things that have come into public domain, including all the films, all of the music, novels, and things like that. It's a fascinating read. I'll give Tracy a link so you can put it in the show notes.
Great. That's really great. Yeah. Then the other thing that I saw related to AI, I don't know if you saw this as well. Prida Parks, who is quite a well-known Second Life creator, has released this really helpful video in which she shows us how to enhance Machinima with stable diffusion and comfy UI, I think it's called. The basically kind of free tools. She's showing us these two different methods that she's combining in this workflow that she's got, which also uses Blender. One of the techniques she's using is what you call interpolating, which is where new frames are inserted between existing frames in order to increase the frame rate up to, say, 4K. So she's inserting new frames. And the other one is where for each of the frames, what she's doing is enhancing the resolution of the image itself and then putting it back into the workflow. So that process results in a scaled up, higher frame rate animation, which is, I don't know if that's the way Phil did it. If Phil was here today, I was going to ask him how he did it for the old Machinimas in the Machiniplex Vimeo channel. I'm guessing it's something very similar, although maybe not, because these tools are changing kind of really rapidly. But I'll certainly share the video with you so that you can see how she's done it and what the result is. It's
exciting.
Noticeably different.
That's great.
So, anything that you kind of pull out of a game that's really low, frame rates, you can do something about that.
Really good.
With AI, which is brilliant. And then on matters related to AI, I was also very interested to note that Valve's Steam store has finally made a decision about the use of AI generated content in the games that it lists, which I don't know if you recall, these were held back for months because they'd got some kind of AI generated content within them. So on the 10th of January, it announced that after spending time considering what was going on in the world of AI, talking to also to game developers and exploring how it can handle games that've got AI content in them, it's decided that it's going to accept them, primarily, most of them, as I understand it. There is actually a process to go through. So you will have to, as a game dev, you will have to declare how AI is being used, whether it's, say, in the generation of the assets in the game or in the real-time game processes, say as NPC type characters or
Right.
whatever the generative process is in the game. Which I'm sure this isn't kind of a novel thing, to be honest. But alongside it, and I think this is kind of getting to what you were talking about there, Ricky, is also a complaint mechanism, because it's not just about, people saying, yeah, it's got it in, no, it's not got it in. It's also emergent issues to do with the use of AI that they're trying to keep tabs on. So they've also got this complaint mechanism in place whereby players can kind of report any of the inappropriate uses that they identify. Well, so I've been following this, having a look at it, and obviously, as one would expect, there are a heap of people naysaying it on the community forum. But I think most of these guys haven't really thought about this too much because, AI has been used in games for years to animate and interact with NPCs. So it's not a new thing at all. Not in the way that we've understood it. So to me, this was kind of an obvious way to deal with the fallout from AI is stealing my copyright mantra, which we've seen such a lot of in recent months with artists. And it's a different thing, I think, in the game space. I also saw on this a few comments along the lines of surely this is going to lead to a plethora of subpar games being released. Well, I think you could argue that, but I think it was certainly the argument made by
Might
the
be the
AAAs.
reverse.
Well, that's my guess. Do you remember when the AAAs, when platforms like Steam were released, they were up in arms because they were basically not happy about the potential competition, and sure enough, thousands of indie games have been released, and it has massively fragmented the market. But I think fundamentally there's been a major shift in the games industry as a consequence of all these games being launched now. There's
Yes.
hundreds
Yes.
of thousands of creatives and games developers involved. I'm not sure actually how many of them make it financially viable as studios, but there's certainly a lot more of them about now than there were 15 years ago. And the
Sure.
sector as a whole has a critical mass and is recognized as one of the most important creative industries in the world now. So I'm guessing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this new tool set, these new
Yeah.
AI generative tool sets that are being integrated into the development of games making and games playing processes. I think this is going to be the next step
I agree. That's a very good point. The AI has been a part of games for a long time. I think the focus will be on what content is being used by AI, what data is being used by AI in games, in different games. And I think the complaint part of it is a great way to go about it. Because if you're somebody who has content, you've created content, you have it, and suddenly you see it in a game and you don't know anything about it, you should be able to bring it up and take care of it that way. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't know how many times I've said this, the legal system is woefully behind trying to give us guidance on this. Eventually, there's going to come some judgments and then appeals, and then there's going to be a final judgment and it's going to be laid out. So for now, it's going to be Wild West. people, you're going to break into camps, people who say, hey, any AI is stealing from me or stealing from my friends, or we should have none of that, or databases should be this way. I think Adobe is an interesting example of somebody who's trying to address the database issue fairly successfully by limiting the kinds of things that are actually part of the AI visual database, although they're not 100% successful, they're way up in the 90s in terms of their success rate as far as getting non-copyrighted material that they're drawing data from to use AI. So again, it's going to be really, I think we're going to be reporting on this issue all year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I've got one more bit of AI related news and then another bit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, on this bit is a new tool being teased by Google, and this one's called Video Poet, and it turns text prompts, into animations without the interim stage of an image and a separate tool like Runway to animate it. So it's kind of conflating the process, if you like.
Fascinating.
Indeed. And there's a really neat example of its capabilities focusing on this kind of a traveling raccoon, which I'll share a link to. So have a look at that, because I think that's going to be another very interesting tool.
Cool. Damien, do you have some news for us?
Well, I kind of covered the crowd thing. Well, something I read actually this morning, it was on the PC Gamer website, and it's PC Gamer, and they were talking about it's a survey that goes around to game developers, and every year they ask which platforms are developers most interested in developing for, and PC games are currently at 62%. So they've got more focus than any of the actual video game consoles. So I think the next one down was PlayStation 5, which is 30-something% interest. And then it just goes down from there. And PC games has been interest in developing PC games has increased a lot since 2020. And a lot of it is, Tracy, you were just talking about all these independent games. It's because independent game studios, it's a lot easier to develop PC games than it is for consoles, because you can just you can make it and you can put it up on Steam or any of the other online sales companies. You don't have to worry about any of the other processes through it. Whereas if you want to release on Xbox or PlayStation, you have to submit it to be approved, and it has to go through this rigmarole of being tested and make sure it's all this other stuff that goes with it. It's a very complicated process. And every time you want to release an update, the update itself has to go through all of that as well, which is why this example, a few days ago, Starfield had a major update, and it's just a beta update, and they're going to release the full thing in a couple of weeks. But it's only available on PC because it's so much easier to push it out to the PC. And I thought, well, that's great, because a lot of Machinima is done on PC. So if game developers are going to put more focus into developing PC games, that's more potential Machinima platforms that people can use to create films with.
Yeah, well, like I said, I look forward to seeing more indie game content.
Me too.
Is,
I've got some, me, I'm an Elden Ring fanatic. I've got some Elden Ring news for you.
Cool.
The Convergence mod, which is one of the most successful mods for Elden Ring or for any game, it's just got a fanatic following. They just released an update 1.4, which was a significant update. It added it expanded new gameplay areas to the vanilla game, original vanilla game. It added a bunch of new NPCs and new weapons and new play styles. It tweaked and adjusted things based on people's feedback and everything. And if you're interested in playing the game, the Convergence Mod YouTube channel has a guide for each of the new classes that have been laid out, and it was just fascinating. And people are responding to the media creators who do YouTube videos. We covered that a little bit last month for Elden Ring. Have been covering this very well, and it's very professional, very interesting. The updates are fantastic. They've increased and elongated the gameplay. They've balanced things so it's not too easy, it's not too hard. That's one of the things I really like about the Convergence mod, because the original Elden Ring vanilla game was very hard, especially for new players getting into it. You just hit a wall in terms of being able to do things and play things. And the fun factor just plummets because as soon as you get frustrated because you can't do something or you get killed over and over, you just start going, well, I don't want to play this game. It's too hard. The Convergence mod still maintains the level of difficulty, but they give you many more ways to get around that. So it simplifies things and makes it a bit easier. And I would urge anybody who wants to start playing Elden Ring is to get this Convergence mod. It's free. It's downloadable. The installation is a snap on PC. That's what I use. By the way, I bought a dedicated laptop for that, and it's performing perfectly by Asus. I should send you the specs on that, Tracy, for that laptop, the gaming laptop.
Yes.
That way we can share it and maybe a picture. Yeah, I'll do that. That way people could check it out. But anyway, check out the new Convergence mod update 1.4. We'll put a link in the show notes for that and play it because you'll love it.
Brilliant. I've got one final thing, and it's a bit of a biggie.
Don't tell me it's AI because I'm leaving if you do.
No, it's not AI. It's a bit more serious.
All right.
A little bit more serious. Very last thing I wanted to tell you today. I picked up that a Minecrafter that I spotted on YouTube has said he's being sued. I had to check it out, and it turns out that he's used a brand name with a recreated building in a digital twin of a city that he and over 1,000 others have been working on for more than 6 years, nearly 7 years. Which is apparently endorsed by the game. And in fact, this digital city that they've built in Minecraft is recognized by the Guinness World Records as the biggest sim ever created in Minecraft to date. The brand is suing him for what appears to be a trademark infringement, asking that their name be removed from the sim and also to delete the page relating to the sim from the internet. And the organization has filed a copyright strike to his YouTube channel as well. Now, the creator contested the strike, which YouTube removed. But now the organization has issued a court order against this creator. And if he fails to turn up in court, he's being threatened with 6 months in jail. The tuber is at pains to state that the channel where they promote the project does not make money and never has. And I think this is quite an interesting one for a number of reasons. It's really hard to see what this brand actually has to gain from this process that it's going through. I would have thought anyone would want to have their brand represented in such an amazing digital project, frankly. It's a transformative use of the brand, which is actually not related to their business operations at all. They're an insurance company. I'm not actually going to even credit them with mentioning what their name is on our show here. But I do think the creators behind the sim are maybe missing a trick in the way that they're responding to this whole threat. Now, of course, they're pissed off, and I can fully appreciate they're also frightened by the legal threats as well. And it's very much a David and Goliath situation where the one thing I think that they have at their advantage, though, or to their advantage, is the creative skills that they've got. And frankly, that's how I would deal with it. I would be creative with how they respond to this. I think this is going to go to, well, I think it is. I think it will go to court. I think the young man who's trying to deal with this is standing his ground. He's fairly well known on YouTube. I'll put a link to the video where he explains what's going on. I hope he gets legal representation because I think he deserves it. Because I think this process is incredibly heavy-handed. And I actually think the outcome of it will have quite serious implications. Perhaps not for creatives, but for city councils and numerous others who are developing digital twin models. Now, I know this one's been done in Minecraft, but there are lots of folks experimenting with a whole heap of technologies
Right.
to create visually rich digital twins with using the IP of a breadth of stakeholders for which they do not have explicit permission to use that IP, that trademark in the representation in the digital twin. So I'm very interested to see how this one ends up. I think it's a pretty serious issue. My gut feeling, I don't think the company will win this one if it gets to court, which is obviously what the young creator does too. However, I think the very fact that it's going to, if it gets all that way, I think the very fact that it could get all that way, we really need to be watching this one like a hawk because of the implications for a whole host of other stuff that's related to it. So I'm fascinated by this one.
I'm sorry to hear that, and make sure you keep us updated on what's going on with it, because it seems to me to be an example of, they may be justified in their complaint, but the way they handle it is so mean spirited, as if somehow they think these game related people are just fools and they're just going to crush them because they're so powerful. I just think so silly. So much easier to contact them and say, hey, this is a violation. Either remove the content or send us X amount of money. To work with them to try to solve the problem, as opposed to these bastards. We're gonna make a lesson out of them and just crush them. That's just terrible way to do it. If it does go to court, I hope they get a judge who's understanding of that.
I think it's a transformative use. It isn't intended to be an insurance offer at all.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ricky. It's a massive overreach. If they didn't want their brand to be used in it, so you just send an email saying, "Can you just please remove our name from the city?"
Yeah.
You can put a make-up name or something.
Solves the problem.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it's going to damage their brand as well, because people are going to think, well, they massively overreacted to something that was completely harmless. I understand some copyright claims, very valid and justified. But this reaction to it is just way over the top for something.
They're a bunch of bullies, is what they are.
Yes, exactly. Bullies. Yeah. Corporate bullies.
And what are they going to do when they look at the Google Street View? Because obviously that same building is going to be visible in it. Are they going to go to Google as well?
Yeah. No, they won't do that because they know they'll get punched in the face if they try to do that. But a bunch of gaming kids, who cares? We'll teach them a lesson. It's the kind of thing where kids cross an elderly guy's yard and he takes a shotgun and fires at him. It's like, dude, just put a sign out there that says don't do that. It's just way over. Well, that's bad news, and you're ending the thing on a sour note.
Sorry.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm really sorry. It's a
that's okay.
I think
all right.
I'm sorry to lower the tone.
That's okay.
Anyway, let's look forward to next episode.
Yep. We got another episode coming next week. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking to you guys about the news. I could basically talk with you about anything and it would be fun, but this was great. Check our show notes at completely.machinima.com. And also, we'd like to hear from you. What do you think of some of this news and things that we're reporting on? Talk at completely.machinima.com. We'll definitely try to get a message to Phil so he can come in and chat with us. Phil, wherever you are, we love you. Ooh.
I don't think he'll hear you. He's in Ontario.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.